Well, good morning and welcome to lesson 21 of A Course in Miracles. We're using the white edition. You just have to Google that if you want it. So lesson 21 is I'm determined to see things differently. And I love this lesson because it really gets real with being human. Right? I don't know how to explain that. The whole course is teaching you that you're not human, that you are spirit. The idea of the association of human is false or an illusion. But in order to transcend that or to heal that identity, you have to be willing to embrace it as it is, like to include it in totally. Right, so there's no point in saying, "Oh, I'm not human. I'm a spirit. I'm a spirit," walking around in denial of your humanness, because your humanness is where all the juice is. You know, it's like where all the grist for the mill is. And if you're into the spiritual world and transformation, purification and everything like that, you'll be aware that there have been many teachers down through the years who will tell you that if the shit's not hitting the fan, you're not on the path. All right, so even to quote classical Jesus, you know, in the Bible, he says the path to heaven is steep and hard, and there are few who are found on it. And this is one of those lessons that puts the rubber to the road and makes it really real, you know, like it exposes a lot. So I'll just get into it and then we'll just sort of blow it out a little bit. You might find that helpful, hopefully. The idea for today is obviously a continuation and extension of the preceding one. In the preceding one, of course, I'm determined to see, lesson 20. This time, however, specific mind-searching periods are necessary in addition to applying the idea to particular situations as they arise. 5 practice periods are urged, allowing a full minute for each. Right, so it's 5 minutes of your day throughout the day. So breakfast, smoko if you've got to go to work, lunchtime, mid-afternoon, and then before you go home, before you go to bed, whatever. Or whenever you can, you know. And one of the things in these lessons, I don't know which lesson it is, he says, but it sort of says if you forget your lesson throughout the day, it says don't worry about it, but as soon as you remember that you've forgotten, then do the lesson immediately. Right? Stop whatever you're doing and do the lesson immediately. Okay, so in the practice periods, begin by repeating the idea to yourself. Then close your eyes and search your mind carefully for situations, past, present, or anticipated, which arouse anger in you. And if you scroll down my Facebook wall a couple of posts, you'll find some lovely quotes by different enlightened masters and people throughout the centuries about anger. So in the practice periods, begin by repeating the idea to yourself, then close your eyes and search your mind carefully for situations, past, present, or anticipated, which arouse anger in you. The anger may take the form of any reaction ranging from mild irritation to rage. The degree of the emotion you experience does not matter. You will become increasingly aware that a slight twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn over intense fury. All right, now you have to, I'll just put a comment there, you have to realise where he says even a slight twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn over intense fury. It's like an iceberg. All right, so you're not healing an idea of anger in relationship to some person, situation or event out there. That's just how it shows up. That's just the catalyst for showing you that there is still anger in you, or that there is still the possibility and potential for anger in you. Right, now everything in this is a threshold, right? Every block is how would you put it, there's a max capacity to which you're able to defend yourself against love in any particular association. So even the twinge of annoyance, a slight twinge of annoyance, is the tip of an iceberg that can be enormous, all right? And what you're healing is separation from source. What you're healing is your anger at God, all right? Which ultimately is anger itself, right? I made a stupid mistake, came to the third dimension, blah, 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 I'm pissed, right? But the third dimension is the second part of the schism of separation. The third dimension was made as a place wherein you can find salvation, wherein you can learn to make choices to affect the outcome of the journey of the soul. So the idea of separation then goes right back to the original error, or the original sin, if you want to call it that, bearing in mind that sin is an Aramaic term relative to archery, which means that you just missed the target. How it became the god-awful thing that it is today, I don't really know. But anyway, the idea that any little twinge of annoyance, right? Now, if you, that guy always pisses me off, whatever, you have this thing, that person out there is playing a part for you to show you that you still have the capacity for anger within you, right? And that can only be healed within you through a miracle, right? Through, Father, help me heal my mind. I need a miracle. Like I don't know. I don't want to define it. I don't care what happens in the situations. I just don't want anger. I'm over it. I'm done. But that tip of the iceberg then can come up, right? You have to allow it to come up, and this is where in meditation and I do an active meditation, a standing meditation, still to this day. In throughout my life, I've done probably 3 or 4 different variations of meditative practices, from open-eyed meditation to a listening kind of meditation to an active, expressive kind of meditation, which I find to be the most beneficial for me. In that it always results in an experience, a light experience. So in that little tip of the iceberg, let it come up, let all of that anger come up. Keep your feet rooted to the spot, breathe and let it come up. It's not about the anger you have with the world, the person, the situation, or a thing like that. It's the anger that is ancient. I don't know how to describe it. It's the desire to kill and destroy and extinguish the universe, like it's primal. It's really, really, it's imagine satanic, egoic, I don't know what you want to call it, but there is a corruption inside each of us, that, and I'll just use my own example, that has to be healed, it has to be expunged or expelled or whatever you call that, and in the willingness to be still and allow that to happen to whatever depth of capacity you can, you'll get the result of it, right? And it's easy to just go, no, I'll forgive that person, no. But remember, it's the tip of an iceberg. It's not about that person. That person came all the way from eternity, and they're playing a part for us that we agreed to play. We wrote this script together, and they're playing that part to show me something about myself, all right? So it's really cool. And he says then, try therefore not to let the little thoughts of anger escape you in the practice periods. Boom Shankar. Remember that you do not really recognize what arouses anger in you, and nothing that you believe in this connection means anything, right? He's not quite calling you an idiot, but pretty much. You will probably be tempted to dwell more on some situations than on others, on the fallacious grounds that they are more obvious. This is not so. It is merely an example of the belief that some forms of attack are more justified than others. As you search your mind for all the forms in which attack thoughts present themselves, hold each one in mind and tell yourself. Right, and here's the application. I am determined to see blank, name of person, differently. I am determined to see blank, specify the situation, differently. Try to be as specific as possible. You may, for example, focus your anger on a particular attribute of a particular person, believing the anger is limited to this aspect. No, it isn't. If your perception of the person is suffering from this form of distortion, say, I am determined to see blank, specify the attribute, in blank, name the person, differently. So I'm determined to see jealousy in Joe Blow differently, right? And you just apply it like that. And be really honest. Like there's no point in not being honest with yourself about the thoughts that are crossing your mind. You know, it's like this is your own salvation. Like you're doing this to yourself, and you want to get the results of your thinking. So the more honest you can be, and it gets really ugly, right? It gets really ugly. But remembering, ugly is a definition I've given my thoughts as well. Right. So you have all these. On one hand, you have these horrific, barbaric, murderous, horrible thoughts. And on this hand, we have these saintly kind of beautiful, lovely butterflies and rainbows. You know, the butterflies and rainbows aren't affecting us just as yet, but you know, we're looking for these ones, right? And if I look into the crystal ball of my thoughts, I remember having this irritation with a particular person who has now passed from the realm. Particular person that annoyed me for years on end. And even though, had you asked me, do I want to kill that person, I would have said, no, they're just annoying, right? Very annoying, but I wouldn't want to kill them. In the moment of the confrontation with that person, when it erupted through the use of these lessons, I realized that I would have to confront this person, and so I prayed for the Holy Spirit to help me to heal my mind of this, you know, and it just panned out that a confrontation came about, and in that moment, I saw that if I'd have had a knife, I would have stuck it in her. It was this woman, and the confrontation wasn't particularly glamorous, and it wasn't particularly mature, and it wasn't particularly any of those things, but it resulted in a change. It resulted in this incredibly beautiful blossoming of a true friendship. So what I call a true friendship. So it all panned out, but my fear of that confrontation, my fear of looking at my angry thoughts about that person, you know, I was trying to keep it all on the surface. It's like, no, fuck, I want to kill that person. I want to blow up the world and bloody everything, you know, like Shiva the Destroyer. Destroyer of worlds, or whatever it is, Oppenheimer. All right, I love you. That's it for today. And we'll do lesson 22 tomorrow. What I see is a form of vengeance. Holy fuck, he's getting into the heavy stuff. All right, take it easy. It's all good, remember. Just follow along, do your lesson. You don't have to believe it, etc., etc., etc. Just breathe. And if it brings stuff up, that's good. All right, if it brings stuff up, it's meant to. This is about the dislodgement of your own egoic perception of the world. So it's good to have it dislodged, and it's going to look in patches like confronting some dark shit. All right, or at least looking at it and being willing to heal it. So, okay, take it easy.